Deep dive into Impactainment with Daniel Hettwer, inspiring global change. Join us for this enlightening conversation with Daniel Hettwer, the visionary founder of Hidden Worlds Entertainment. We'll explore the transformative concept of impactainment, entertainment experiences that inspire measurable, positive change. Learn how his innovative approach is connecting us all to the ocean and championing global change to heal our Earth. Listen as we discuss storytelling, technology, marine conservation, and the future of immersive entertainment. Don't miss this opportunity to understand how our actions can protect ecosystems and combat climate change. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Let me share a little bit about the guests that we have here today. Daniel Hettwer is a pioneer in sustainability finance who led Vestas Wind's financial engineering division in China and consulted for global companies. He co-founded Hidden Worlds Entertainment, a UN-accredited venture that merges entertainment with impactful experiences. Recognized by the United Nations and supported by partners like MasterCard and Nestle. Additionally, he's a founding member of the World Experience Organization and an advisory board member of Beneath the Waves. I am so pleased to welcome to our stage Daniel Hettwer. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the very great introduction. I'm going to try my best to live up to it.
Well, you already are and continue to do so with all of the things that I'm really excited to share with the audience that you are creating in the world. So without further ado, outside of that incredible biography that you do need to live up to, please share a little bit more about yourself with us so we can get to know you a little better.
Yeah. My name is Daniel. I co-founded Hidden Worlds Entertainment, which is the world's only impactainment company where we take a very scientific approach to impact. So how do we create impact? How we can prove impact, but all within a very entertaining field. So how do we have fun while doing so? You see, there's a big disconnect between the change we want to see and how we go about that. We tend to be very judging, very shaming, very boring, and in many cases, looking into the science and how your brain functions, that's not the right approach. So we set out to combine elements from neuroscience, psychology, and having fun into this venture. So it's quite unique, and it's been quite the journey.
I just love it. And you're speaking my language here. You're a perfect fit to be on this show because I love understanding the science and the neuroscience, the psychology behind it all to really bring about things that really do inspire change within us. So we live in such an age where we get to do that, where we do have a lot of science-backed technology to bring to the forefront in order to create something incredible. So you do that with this visualization that you bring to the forefront in the entertainment industry, the hospitality industry, and so let's talk a little bit more about how you got involved with that in the first place. What inspired you to want to switch gears like this?
Yeah, ultimately, I studied psychology, consumer decision making, and economics. So I've been on both sides of that field, so to speak, right? The very factual, hardcore side of it, and then also the very emotional and feeling based side of it. And you look into the space and you can see that the feelings are winning, right? A lot of the corporate brands, from Coca-Cola to Nestle. They get you to make purchasing decisions not because of facts, but because of feelings. Right. On the other side of the spectrum, in the conservation space, we seem to have more of that, science-based or hard science-based, economics-based approach to things, right? So we're very, very educational and fact-driven, and we're losing, right? So the whole idea was to bring a little bit more of that emotional aspect to the conservation side of things, or to the impact side of things. Because we in the science space or in the conservation space, we tend to be the dumbest smart people. We know exactly what needs to be done, but we don't know how to communicate that or how to get people involved. I think there's a lot that we can learn there from the psychology and from the brand side. So that was sort of like the reason why we started this venture.
Yeah. Well, it's bringing in the right person that really knows how to merge those two worlds, right? Where they know how to communicate with the scientists, and they also know how to bring in the art and the compassion and the emotional pieces to all of that, to marry it and really create something unique and big that's more effective out there, right? And so I want to share. I think that let's just bring it in, just to give the audience a little bit of an idea of what it is that you bring, and then I would love for you to discuss a little bit about that and what this is showing. So let's share this video. Stay tuned. So I really feel like that brings in this again. It's that immersive piece to and experiencing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get into that, I want to ask though, can you hear the crazy chickens in the background? We're getting hammered by a massive storm right now, and seeing it's Hawaii, so there's chickens everywhere, so they're all freaking out right now. So sorry about the background noise on that.
Well, yes, can hear, and now we know.
Yeah. So
No
we're just
problem.
having this typhoon, great wind here coming in. So that's, I think, all of the animals outside are freaking out. But yeah, so what you're seeing is our approach to making a change in the seafood sector, right? So what we set out to do is we looked into the seafood space, and we said seafood is an industry that's from a dining experience point of view, it's fairly sexy. People go to omakases, they go to sushi experiences, they go to all of these fine dining experiences, they dress up, they go there in order to have a fantastic night out. So it needs to be a very sexy, aspirational experience that we put on, that is targeted towards people that do eat seafood, right? Because that's ultimately the people that we're trying to reach in order to have positive impact. But then once you step into the space, you really are immersed in this very emotional narrative, and we take you through different environments, from the mangroves to coral reefs to the dead ocean, and each environment is merged with a new dish, where each dish has a story to tell. So we only work with ocean positive ingredients. We work with invasive lionfish, for example, or diver scallops. And each one of these dishes has a reason for being. And with every dish, when you consume it, you also help the ocean. So you consume overpopulated species, you consume invasive species. And that combination of storytelling and narrative that is emotionally relevant to you within an immersive environment that has the opportunity to amplify the emotional response of the audience is really the essence of our Impactainment venture here, at least in the dining space. So that, in a nutshell, is what you see there.
All right. So yeah, you definitely bring in, it makes it much more meaningful, the whole thing, because it's very intentional, everything that's going behind it, from where it's sourced, why it's sourced, where it is. And so I think that is really incredible. Now, you've brought this to the dining experience. Do you include these, the impactainment, the immersive experience outside of that, or do you have future ventures that you're excited about?
Yeah, so we've been running it both on the dining side as well as on the daytime side for more educational or engagement with schools and so forth. We've then used that as a platform to refine the product and to test the impact of it. So we've had people in neuro trackers, and we've done A/B testing as to information recall and awareness and engagement. We invited people to beach cleanups afterwards, where a lot of the people that paid a very significant price for the dining experience then afterwards went and donated their time to participate in cleanups. So we use these really as a platform to test and refine our impactainment approach. And we then are now expanding this into a permanent dining format, where you have both the immersive projection map room with content that's going to be rotating depending on different destination partners, but then also have general seating that's a little bit more approachable for people, also from a lower price point of view, but still with the storytelling behind every dish, because that is something that drives a lot of value. We know that from psychology and neuroscience, when you tell stories with dishes, you can create very significant brain responses. So that will always be the core of it. And we can go a little more deep into the science behind it if you're interested.
Yeah, I am, because I think that you're correct. I think historically, I think it's really ingrained, genetically through us, where when we get together and we dine together, that is where we have story form. I think that it's really important for us to continue doing that, as families, eating around the dinner table and discussing each other's days is really, really valuable. So this is what you're creating here, because there is science to back that. And so I definitely want to go into that a little bit and understand your findings with that, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, look, I think, and there's two elements to it, right? There's the tribal communal aspect to it, and then there's the narrative aspect, right? So if we go into the tribal communal aspect, that's, from an evolutionary biology point of view, you're absolutely right. We gather for food, that's the end of the day. People gather around the fire, and then they tell stories. So it's a tribal moment. It's a moment of culture and of connectedness that is very deeply ingrained in us. That's why tribalism is such a major force of our decision making, right? If we go against our tribe, we risk being expelled from the tribe, and as such, we would, back in the days, not survive in the savannah or wherever we are. So the tribalism and the social connection is very deeply ingrained in us. On the other hand, you have the narrative side of it, and there, interestingly, we're only one of three animals that live far beyond their reproductive time. So there's orcas, there's pilot whales, and there's humans. And you wonder, what is the purpose of us living beyond our ability to reproduce? And most likely that is due to us being able to tell stories to the younger generations, and doing so, share our knowledge. And when you look into the brain science and the brain's development, how I think our brain is only 25-ish% developed at the point of birth. So there's a lot of brain development that happens. We're pretty useless when we're born, unlike other animals that can already walk and know exactly what to do and feed themselves. So our brain develops, for decades after our birth. So the whole storytelling is again very deeply ingrained in us, and our brain responds so well to story because it's so hungry for story, which is why we live so far beyond our reproductive age. And you can see that the dining sector is especially interesting in that regard. We know that if I give you 2 glasses of wine that are exactly the same wine, but I layer in a story in one of them, the wine is going to taste better. And we now know with advanced technology that this is not just a psychological perception, but from a physiological point of view, the wine tastes better. So people were strapped into, I think it was fMRIs, and the brain's response was measured, and they could see increases in the pleasure centers and the taste centers and so forth that corresponded with an increase or an improvement in taste, despite it being the same wine. So, all of a sudden the whole, question of what is real, what isn't real, becomes very relevant, right? Because a lot of 95% of our decisions are made automatically. We do go with the context of the tribe. We go with the context of stories, and all of that is so influential on our brain, which is why that is the biggest opportunity for us to create impact through tribalism, through storytelling, which is completely neglected by many people in the conservation space.
And for a very long time. Right? We haven't had this brought to us, really. So I think that it's incredible that you're bringing back to that beautiful concept of storytelling while dining, and everybody wants their food and wine to taste better, right?
Right.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I'm going to start eating dinner and listening to a good story, Audible or what have you, while I eat. But I think it's more complex than that. But I think that is really brilliant that you bring that to the forefront. Now, you have been very inspired to do this. What was the moment that had you realize that story was so impactful and that you wanted to bring this to society?
Yeah, it's actually, it's so funny that you asked that, because with whatever you do, there's usually not a black and white type approach, right? It happens gradual. So when I was a kid, I was always very drawn to water. I always had a strong affection for water, appreciation for it. I used to love fishing as well. So I've been sort of like on the non-conservationist side of that, if you can call it that. But I've always had that affection for water. And then I started diving, and that caused me to see a lot of the destruction in the world, in the oceans, which then got me to dedicate a lot of my time and my life to the conservation side. Now, that was the dedication part, and then the question is, how do you get into the how do you create impact part of it, right? So that's another journey, right? That has to do with the learning on the psychology field. We've been blessed with meeting amazing people like Dr. Paul Zak, who's a world's leading neuroeconomist, that has been doing a lot of research in the field of oxytocin and emotional storytelling and how to trigger empathy and these things. So this honestly has been a 30-year journey, probably, from the time I became passionate about nature conservation to the point where we have scientific knowledge and the right approach in order to create positive change.
Wow. 30-year journey. Well, yeah. And I think that so much of why we come and we bring the light that we're bringing into the world is based on those experiences from early on. Like you said, your exposure to the ocean, the love for it, and then bringing story form. Now, story is so fascinating too, because I interview people here to share their stories, which really is the thing that inspires people to want to be better. That's the me too moment that comes out of listening to somebody else's journey. And it's what connects us, I think, the most. It really bridges a gap between us because we feel that we're so similar. And those experiences are really what make us go further. I love your insight on how you believe that we live longer past the time where we're procreating, etc., because it's the knowledge that we're passing down through story. We age, we become we've lived life, we've experienced a lot, we've learned those lessons, and we become the sage, right? So passing down and educating those who are around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you see that in a lot of the traditional forms of living as well, right? Where you have the grandparents living with the parents, and there's like 3 or 4 generational households. And that is certainly how a lot of, from an evolutionary point of view, again, when we're going back to the tribes, right? That's how the tribes were living. So you can see that there's a big benefit, when the parents are out and hunting and gathering, and the kids are oftentimes raised by, 2 generations up, 3 generations up, then there's a big benefit of them transmitting some of their knowledge to the younger generation that are in the stage of their life where they are very receptive. The brain is growing and learning and mirroring and doing all of these things. So I do believe that there's a big part of us as a species and our success is due to storytelling and tribalism.
Absolutely. Well, Daniel, we're going to move into our commercial, and when we get back, let's jump into the emotional aspect of it and going more into mental awareness, because I know that is your other passion. So
Sure.
we'll dive into that. Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone. We're here with Daniel Hettwer with Impactainment, which is such a word, right? To read it, I was like, oh, am I saying this right? Impactainment. Really cool concept. Love it. And so you really ventured out to create that for everyone, something that nobody else is doing, which I think is really rad. And so it's fascinating to talk with you. When you also have another passion that is really built around mental health, mental awareness. So of course, I believe, as we've been speaking about story form, there must be a story behind this passion as well.
Yeah, I think everybody has a story, especially when it comes to mental health and struggle, right? Everybody struggles. I think we all live on a spectrum when it comes to a lot of the struggles, and that spectrum extends throughout your life. A good friend of mine who's a world-class psychologist and professor, one of the leading universities here, I told her this stat that I heard of 1 in 5 people having a severe mental illness in their life that would warrant a clinical diagnosis. And she challenged me on that. She said that number is significantly higher if you go throughout the whole life of that person. So at any point in time, you have about 20% of the US population having a mental illness or severe mental health issue. But over time, there's a significantly higher chance, somewhere around 80% or something like this, that you as an individual will have a mental health struggle at some point in your life that is very significant. Now, with that, and that understanding that everything is on a spectrum, both on a daily basis as well as on a lifetime basis, as well as on a severity basis, comes a lot of responsibility, right? Some of us have kids. You look at your beautiful kids and you wonder how they're going to grow up with the increase in social media. A lot of that shallowness that comes with it. You have a lot of global conflicts happening. You have a loss of biodiversity, and there's a climate crisis ongoing as well. So there's a lot of struggles that our next generations will have to deal with. So I feel that it's our responsibility to, at least from our side, from Hidden World side, to extend the reach of Impactainment to bring that into additional verticals such as the mental health space.
Yeah. And those stats are just staggering. aren't they? And in it, yeah, stretching it along an entire lifetime of how life is ebb and flow, right? And there is the only change is, or the only constant is change. I say oftentimes. So we all experience challenges with our mental well-being at some point in life, or numerous times in life, right? We wouldn't have a wellness life show if we didn't have experiences like that, where things get tough and things are great. But it's part of really living, and I think that the more that we can bring to the forefront things that really can ease us through that process, and shared experiences, and of course, again, bringing in story form, is an aspect and a way to help ease us all through some of those difficult times.
Yeah, and it's a realization that a lot of the joy wouldn't happen without some struggle as well, right? I mean, the if you're always happy, then there's no not that much value in the happiness. You're gonna get bored quite easily if everybody has, I'll give you a different example. Everybody around you has Lambos, and your Lambo doesn't matter, right? We are a species that likes to compare quite a bit.
Yeah.
So our happiness is only our happiness compared to somebody else in many instances. Of course, there's a certain ground happiness, and one that we need to appreciate more through mindfulness and so forth. But a lot of our daily emotions are really driven by comparisons as well. We might have a great day, and then we see somebody else that we dislike having a better day, and all of a sudden your day is ruined. you know so there are a lot of these things that are happening. So we're very species that like to compare quite a bit. Or you have a bad day and you see somebody else suffering, and you come to realize that your day is not that bad after all. There's a lot of these things. So yeah, it's a very interesting field, because it's so uniquely human, and we're so uniquely weird in being human.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting, right? But you're correct. We have to have that contrast, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, right? In order to even appreciate anything. And we can't really be grateful for something if we haven't yet experienced the lack thereof. And so I think that's also something, in a strange way, to be very grateful for, the things that have been difficult, because now we get the contrast, and so the feeling is more intensified, where we get to feel more grateful for the things that we have, because of the things that we experienced that were felt we were lacking, or what have you. So yes, and contrast and comparison is certainly a thing. Now, Daniel, what are some of the things that you like to do on a daily basis to help with your own personal mental health?
Yeah, I think the first of all, I'm probably not the best person to talk to about that, because I'm certainly not doing enough for it. Running a company, I think you realize that
A lot of
um,
work.
it's a lot of work, and you don't have enough time for family, you don't have enough time for friends, you don't have enough time for yourself. So I'm probably not the right person to give recommendations, but I can tell you what I'm trying to do more of, right? And that's exactly those
Perfect.
three. So I found a lot of benefit in just daily gratitude journaling. So where you remind yourself on a daily basis of one thing that was particularly good, or that you're particularly grateful for. It allows you to reflect a little bit on your day. And then doing the same, I do the same on Sundays, and kind of like go through the notes and pick my favorite parts of it. So it has been very helpful. I do work out, or I try to do a lot of sports, because that allows you to release quite a bit of stress. I wish I would sleep more. We know that sleep is incredibly important for your mental well-being. I wish I had more time for my friends, because social connection, that goes back to the tribalism that we talked about before. We are a tribal species. That's how we evolved. So there's no wonder that if you're lonely, your mental health decreases. And that loneliness can be both factual as well as mental, right? For example, if you're struggling and you think that you're the only one that's struggling, you're kind of lonely in your struggle, which is incredibly bad for your mental well-being. Even if you have hundreds of people around you that call you up and that text you and that talk to you, if you feel that you're the only one in that group that is not doing well, then that's a big problem. And on the other side of the spectrum, if you don't have any social network, anybody else to talk to, if you're lonely, then that's not good for your mental health as well. So I'm trying to be better, and apologies to all of my friends that I'm neglecting quite a bit, to be honest with you. I should definitely do more of that. And then I have I have a wife that I love very much, and a little daughter. I'm trying to allocate time between all of that, right? Between yourself and between your family and between your friends and between a company that's quite demanding as well. So it's not always easy. I think people need to realize that there's no point in trying to be perfect. Everything is gradual, because if you're trying to go for 100%, you're definitely going to fail. If you keep on failing, you start to become discouraged. So whatever you do, I mean, even if you just reach out to your friends once a week, just reach out. It's still better than nothing at all. So I think the gradual, the step by step, is a very important realization for your own well-being as well.
Daniel, so what I hear you saying is that while you're out there trying to save the world and create this incredible understanding for all of us and gift these ideas to all of us because of the importance of community and story and all of that. I mean, you certainly have a lot of brilliance in knowledge and what is great for us, the sleep, the community, all of those things. And you really are bringing that to light. And it's fascinating because, so many of us have no idea what you're talking about when you really are putting yourself out there for, the rest of the world, but yet are not giving it to yourself. And so you lack the time for yourself when you're out there giving so much.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put myself on that pedestal. I think that everybody is making a lot of sacrifices on a daily basis, right? And it's really just a question of where you make those sacrifices. Sometimes we make sacrifices to ourselves. If you engage in behavior that's not necessarily healthy for yourself, that's still a sacrifice you make to yourself. And you have to, see for yourself where are you willing to make those battles. A lot of things that I'm talking about, I do that for my daughter. So even though it's not necessarily great, from my social and friend network point of view, it still is very good for myself because I feel I'm doing something for her. There's certainly nurses and doctors and first responders and everybody else out there that are doing 100 times more than any of us, most of us, because they're putting themselves out there for the greatness of humanity. I wouldn't, I'm far from that, but I do think everybody needs to find something that they're very passionate about and follow that passion and be willing to give other things up for your passion. That's just what it is. You can't, you can't have a stress-free, or it's very unlikely that you have a very stress-free job and that you have unlimited income and that at the same time you have unlimited time to make everybody happy. There's just certain things that just don't necessarily go with each other, and you have to find that for yourself. And when you find that, I think you're going to be happy. I'm happy despite a lack of sleep. Does that make sense? So I don't necessarily need that sleep because I'm a happy person because of these other things that I'm doing.
Yes, I heard a brilliant man once say, stay tired and happy. And so I think that there is a lot to be said about that. And you're correct. While you're out there doing what you're so passionate about and joyful about, it's not going to be necessarily easy, right? And there is the ebb and flow of that, where there's seasons of times where we work very, very hard, and then there's times where it's slower and you can see more of the fruits of those labors. But Daniel, you're really creating so much. And what are you most excited about right now, or what do you foresee in the future that you're creating?
Yeah, look, I think I mean, on the short term, I'm very excited about both our Great Minds mental wellness immersive experience that really builds on an immersive art platform to generate awareness and engagement in the mental health space. And on the other side, short term, I'm very excited about the opening of our permanent dining experience that is very much within the sexy, fun dining, immersive space with a focus on nature conservation. So two different experiences, all within the impactainment space. Long term, though, I do hope that the concept catches on, not just for us but for others as well. Uh, I truly believe that we have a massive opportunity here. There's about 500 million people going through theme parks every year. There's 0.25% of them have a genius level IQ. There are a few Da Vinci's in there, and I do hope that more and more of the Disneys and the Universals and the Netflixes take on that impactainment approach and hopefully create inspiring experiences that get more people engaged in the positive impact space. And you never know, there might be a kid going through a theme park in China, being stimulated to do something great and dedicating their life, and they find a breakthrough in fusion energy which will benefit and save humanity. You never know. I think that I'm mostly excited about the opportunity that we have here, and the that this is slowly but surely catching on. More people are more focused on impact.
I love that. I love that it truly is to inspire others to be more open-minded and creative. Uh, and like you said, to give back, to create the impact that really is beneficial to all of us. So, Daniel, it's been amazing to have you on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Thank you so much for sharing all of the things that you're creating for everyone. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience today?
I think there are two very important things. Number one, for yourself, don't be too hard on yourself. I think that's very, very important. You need to, it's a journey, it's a marathon, right? So don't strive for perfection, no matter what it is, no matter if it's within the mental well-being space or working out or with family or conservation. Just take one step after another, because long term it's gonna compound. And number two, for anybody who is in the experience design space, I do hope that we're willing to engage the other side, because you can only create impact if you reach those that you want to create impact with or impact for. So if you're in the conservation space, be willing to engage with people that are driving gas-fueled cars and eat a lot of steak and believe in oil and gas as the primary source of energy, because those are the people that we need to reach. Those are the people we need to engage with. And impactainment, the essence of it is reaching the other side. So I think those are the two main things that are very important to me personally, and I hope other people take on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We did have a few comments come in. Manly says, this reminds me of Walt Disney because he took an amusement park to higher level.
Well, I mean, I'm very honored. I don't think you're making me a little speechless. I mean, look, I think that Walt Disney is obviously one of the biggest icons that anyone in the entertainment space can have. And we will never be able to live up to anything that he did. But I do hope that we create a space where people come in, where they have a good time, that has a positive draw on people, and that can be inspiring. I mean, a lot of the storytelling that Disney does is family friendliness, the togetherness, the social connection, is something very admirable. And we're now hoping to extend that into the nature conservation, the mental health, and so forth. Yeah.
And he also said, I think that this is the beginning of something amazing. I agree with that. And the reason I agree with that is because, Daniel, what you are creating is bringing in technology and science and all of the things that it is that next level. And it is what is bringing that immersive piece that really does make a bigger difference. It is how our bodies and our brains really it becomes sticky, right? The influence that it creates, and I mean sticky by it sticks with us.
Right.
You're, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we always known that, right? Like ancient wisdom and storytelling and everything, and when you look into some of these indigenous cultures, it's always been there. It's just that we've been so factual and science driven as a Western society, and I feel that we're now at the point where all of a sudden we do understand the science, or the science that we believe in, right? When it comes
Mhm.
to narrative and the response on the brain and the engagement and everything. So all of a sudden, hopefully now we are at a point where we can also believe in what some of these you know very indigenous cultures have known for since their beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Daniel, you have been a fabulous guest, and you are so humble in comparison to what you are doing. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you so they can see for themselves all of the amazing things that you are doing. Uh, so I've had this displayed on the screen a few times for those of you watching. It is www.ourhiddenworlds.com for those of you listening in. Also, this is in the description below. And so I was going to bring in also another comment that came through. And Manly again says, creating experiences that infuse with positive memories using as many senses as possible. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, multisensory is definitely key. We know that from there's a fantastic book called Your Brain on Art that touches on a lot of the multisensory experiences and the stimulation, the neuroplasticity of your brain that is aided through the multisensory aspect of it. So there's definitely a lot of truth to that comment for sure.
Yeah. So, everybody, check out Daniel's amazing things that he's doing, the ocean conservation and everything. We have a few different links in the description below. So, check it out. Daniel, it's been wonderful to have you. Truly an honor to have you here on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And for our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So goodbye for now, and we will see you next time.